In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to create progress bars in Notion. We'll be using the concept of formulas in Notion to create these 24 visually stunning progress bars to take your Notion skills to the next level. I'll be walking you through a simple checklist that you can use to decide what progress bar is best suited for your needs, the limitations that currently exist, and the exact resources that you need to be able to create visual progress bars yourself. Finally, I'll be breaking down each formula into multiple different parts so that you can truly understand how to recreate progress bars in your Notion. I'll be covering the if formulas as part of this video tutorial, but if you're interested in learning more about other formulas in Notion, then make sure you check out my video series that I'll link above. There you'll find video tutorials on how to use every single type of formula in Notion and examples of how they are most frequently used. I've broken this video down into 6 different parts. I'll put the timestamps in the description below so you can skip ahead at any point. In the first section, I'm going to show you how you can create your first progress bar, and I'll walk through the formula in different parts so you can understand it step by step. In the second section, I'm going to walk you through how to create a progress bar that only has the completed progress bar displaying as opposed to the completed and also the empty progress bar. In the third section, I'm going to show you how you can change the percentage that appears at the end of the progress bar into one that is rounded to the nearest 10. In the fourth section, I'm going to walk you through exactly how you can create all of these different variations of the progress bar, both ones that are based on emojis as well as those that are based on the HTML symbols. And again, I'll be walking you through each of the formulas step by step so you can really understand how to create every single version of those. I'll also be walking you through the exact website that I use to be able to get these HTML symbols that are used as part of the progress bars. In section 5, I'm going to cover one limitation that the if formula has when producing progress bars. And finally, in section 6, I'll be comparing the slice formula with the if formula, which is the 2 different ways of producing progress bars in Notion. I'll be showing you what each formula produces for each percentage, all the way from 1% to 100%. So you can compare and see for yourself why you should be using the if formula. Creating your first progress bar. There's 2 methods that you can use. The first method is using the if formula only, and the second method is using the slice formula. In this video, we're going to be covering off the if formula, which I believe is a bulletproof method of producing progress bars. So I would 100% recommend that you use this one. The second method is a slice method, which I've covered in a different video, and I'll put a link to it above. However, be warned that if you do use a slice formula, then there are a couple of landmines that you need to avoid. So let's get started with the if formula. So let's go ahead and create our table. In this example, I think we'll track progress on 4 different projects. So let's go ahead and fill that out. In order for us to create the progress bar, we have to have a column that says how much progress we've made. So in this case, we'll call it a completed column, and we'll change that to a number. Then we also need to have a column that says what our goal is or target is. So let's go ahead and create that, change that to a number as well. So the goal will track out of 100, and let's put in some example completed statuses. So let's make this one 67, let's make this one 23, let's make this one fully completed, and let's leave this one as blank. Next, we'll create a column that divides the completed versus the goal so that we can work out what our percentage completed is. Change that into a formula field, and then what we'll do is we'll simply take the 2 properties or the 2 columns in this case, which is the completed, and we want to be able to divide that by the goal or the target. So let's go ahead and select that property. If we click done, you can see that it gives us a decimal place. What I like to do is, rather than leaving it as a decimal place, I like to just add into the formula, multiply it by 100, so that it gives me a nice number that I can work with. Now that we've got the basics set up for the table, we can go ahead and create the progress bars. So let's go ahead and create a column called progress bar, and we'll change that into a formula and click in the cell. So now we want to be able to construct our formula that gives us our progress bar. So let's start off with the if formula. So we'll do if, then let's select a property. So we want to be able to now use the new column that we created, which is a percentage complete. So we want to say if the percentage complete is greater than or equal to 95, then we want to be able to return the value. Now I'm going to create some emojis, which is going to be our progress bar. The best way to be able to do this is to press the start and semicolon key on your keyboard, and that opens up this emoji window, and we'll go ahead, select an emoji that we want to be able to use in this case. So I want this progress bar to be multicolored, and I want it to start from red, then working its way into slightly lighter shade, and slightly lighter shade of orange, then yellow, then green, and then finally blue. Notice that I've selected 10 emojis or 10 bars. So we always want to be able to select 10 because that's what we're going to be able to track our progress against. Let's go ahead and close that bracket. And now if this was the only thing that I wanted to be able to show a progress bar on, I could just close the simple if formula here by saying if the property completed is more than 95%, then return this particular bar. If not, we could just return an empty space and then we can close the bracket. So if I press done, you can see that it's created this bar only for the 100% completed one, and it hasn't created it where the percentage completed 67, 23, or even 0%. So what I want to be able to do now is to be able to add to this if formula. And the easiest way I find is to be able to just simply copy the first part of the formula, because what we want to do is keep adding more and more conditions until we're satisfied that all of our percentages have been covered. So I've just copied that, so I'm going to be able to paste that in there. Then I'll change this to another range. So let's say it's 85 to 95. So in this case, we want to be able to change the progress bar. So instead of it being fully completed, we want to be able to have it showing as a little bit empty. So let's create an emoji. Click on the link, select the empty square. Let's go ahead and click back into it. Now we've created the comma and then created 2 spaces. And if I press done in this case, you can see that it still hasn't populated any of the other progress bars, and that's because the range that we put in now is 85 to 95. Let's say, for instance, instead of this being 67, this was actually 89%. Then you can see that the formula then generates progress bar and it leaves one of the squares empty because the 89 is falling between the ranges of 85 and 95. And I've told if formula to be able to return this particular progress bar when that range occurs. So now that we've understood that basic concept, what we can go ahead and do is simply copy this first part of the formula multiple times. So let's go ahead, copy the first part of the formula and paste it in multiple times until we've satisfied all of the ranges that we need progress bar for. So I'll simply copy that and I'll just press Ctrl V and key paste until I've got all the ranges that I need. Now let's go ahead and change the ranges. So we'll change this to be 75, 65, 55, 45, 35, 25, 15, just 5, and then 0. So this range should cover all the different eventualities starting from 0% to 100%. There's one more thing we need to do within this formula. You can see that it's not letting us finish the formula. It's because we need to close off all the if statements. So in this case, we've created 10 of those. So we need to be able to add a similar amount of closing statements. So we'll just go ahead and do that. There you go. As you can see, the button has now lit up. Therefore, we can press enter and that should work. The ranges are being produced for all of the percentages, but the progress bar is actually being displayed the same, and we don't want that. We actually want it to change depending on the percentage. So the next step we need to do is click back into the formula, and we simply need to create the visual progress bars in the formula itself. It's a little bit manual, but it does pay off in the end. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll just copy the empty one, and in case of the 75, I'll remove that and I'll create 2 versions, because when it's 75 to 84%, I want it to show up as being 80% complete. Then for 65, I want it to be showing up as 3 empty boxes. So we'll go ahead and change that to 3 empty boxes. Then for 55, I want it to be 4. 45% to 54%, I want it to be. So you can see we've started creating this nice gradual progress bar. So all I'm doing here is just copy pasting the blank version of the progress bar. And then for the 0 to 4%, we want the whole bar to be showing up as being empty. That's looking good. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like in the table itself. So press enter. That looks much better. As you can see, it's now giving us the various progress bars depending on the percentage completed. So if we look at the 89%, that's almost 90%, and the formula means that it's going to fill up the bar all the way up to 90%, but not 100%. The next step is to add the percentage value at the end of this progress bar. I'm going to create another column. This column is also going to be a formula column, and I'm going to rename this progress bar plus value. So in this case, the formula we're going to use is a simple concatenation or an add function. So we'll select the progress bar column or the property type, which is this one, and then we want to simply be able to add. So we'll just put the add sign in there plus the value that we see in the percentage complete, which is 67. So let's go ahead and add that property type. Let's close off the brackets. So as you can see, as soon as we've done that, Notion has produced this error, which is the type mismatch. So it's saying that the property %complete is not actually text. So in order for us to be able to add the two together and display them next to each other, we need to be able to change this particular property or anything that's showing up as a number within the formula into a text field or a text string. So the best way to do that is to use the format formula. Let's close the brackets on that. That seems to be working okay. So let's go ahead and press done and see what that looks like. Let's expand the column. So as you can see, that seems to be working good. That's starting to take shape, but I'd like to have a bit more space between my value and the progress bar finishing. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's open up the formula, and between the two properties, let's add another space. So I'll do the plus formula, space, and I'll do the inverted commas, put a space, and then close inverted commas, and then create a space. And as you can see, Notion does actually give you a live preview of what the formula is going to produce. And for some of the ones that we can see at the bottom, you can see that there is now a gap between the value and the progress bar ending, which is exactly what we were looking for. So let's go ahead and close this formula now. That's starting to look good. The last thing we want to be able to do in here is put a percentage sign next to the number value. And the easiest way to do that, again, we can either create another column or we can just add it to the same formula. For this tutorial, I'll just go ahead and add it as part of the same formula. So let's open up the formula again, and then at the end of it, we'll just create the plus sign, and then we'll open up the inverted commas, put the percentage sign in, and then close it, and then press done. So there you go. That looks good. So we've now managed to create a progress bar with both the progress bar filled and the empty progress bar with the value and the percentage right next to it. Let's go ahead and just quickly check that. Let's change this value. Let's change it to 89 again. So as you can see, it updates the progress bar with the correct percentage and also the correct fill in the progress bar. So in terms of creating the formula, we can obviously do it like we've just done. I start populating it as part of the formula field itself. But sometimes when you have formulas that are this long, it can get a bit confusing and it's very hard to see where you're making a mistake if the formula is not working. So another way you can approach this is by starting off with a code block. So let's go ahead and create one. So I'll go ahead, select the code. And this is quite a helpful block in Notion where it allows you to be able to put code and be able to easily amend it and change it. So I'm going to paste the two formulas that we've got in here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to copy this formula. I'm going to paste it in there. Obviously, because the formula is in one row and it's quite a large formula, you have to drag across to see what it looks like. But what we can do is we can simply break the formula down into its different components. So every time I see an if formula starting again, I'm going to just break the formula out just so it's much easier for us to be able to see what the formula is doing. So this is part one of the formula, and then part two for us is what we've created in this second field. So these are the two parts of the formulas. And as you can see, the second part of the formula relies on this property, which is referring to this entire formula up here. Now, if we wanted just one column to have the entire formula in it, i.e. the full formula, we could go about just simply replacing all of this property by everything that we've got as part of this first formula. So to demonstrate that, I'm just going to create another column in here, and I'm going to change that to a formula, and I'm going to rename that. So to demonstrate that, I'm just going to duplicate this code block just so that you can see it side by side, and I'm going to drag it so it appears right next to it so we can see them side by side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to replace this element, this part 2, and I'm going to add this bit to the first bit and paste it like so. And then I'm going to copy this formula, the whole formula. So you can't actually copy this formula straight into the field in Notion because the way we've displayed it, it's ended up creating a lot of spaces in between them. So the best way to overcome this is to simply open up a browser and just paste the entire formula into the browser bar at the top, and it'll just flatten the whole formula. And then what you can do is you can Control-Alt, copy that entire formula, and then come back into Notion, into the field, and then you can just paste it in there. So you can see that's created, and now it's giving you the ability to be able to enter that formula without any error. Let's see what that looks like. So as you can see, we've just used one column to be able to create the entire progress bar plus the value and the percentage field that goes along with it. This is good in terms of presentation, so we can still use the previous two columns, and in terms of making the table look a lot cleaner, you could click on these three dots, click on the properties, and then here Notion allows you to be able to hide any of the columns that you don't actually need. So in this case, all your columns that you use to be able to come up with the end result, you can potentially hide them if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and hide that. Another way we can simplify these formulas is by taking out another step that we added in, which was creating this initial formula, which was to divide the completed value by the goal value. So as you can see in both formulas that we've got at the moment, we're still referring to the property percentage complete, and then that particular property has its own formula in it. So we can simplify this further by simply creating another version of the formula. And in this particular case, I'm just going to replace the entire property field in here with the formula that we were using in the first formula field. So we'll go ahead and just copy that, and we'll just paste it in there. And we can do that for every single time the property field appears. So now we have the full formula in one place, and we can simply go ahead, copy all of that, paste it into our browser bar, copy that again, and then create another column in here, and let's go ahead and paste the formula. And in this case, what's happening is that we're getting a syntax error, and that's happening right at the top, where the value that we put in, it needs to be a string value. So we need to add a format function at the start of this entire formula. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I just create a format, and then we've got our if formula, and then at the end, I'm just going to close this off with another bracket. So let's go ahead, paste the formula now. Let's go back into our browser bar, paste the formula, copy it again. So let's go ahead and paste that formula, click done. And as you can see, this option has resulted in the same progress bar being produced. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because once you get comfortable using this formula, you don't actually need that many columns to be able to produce the end progress bar result. You could simply have the single column next to your completed and goal. So if I just duplicate this table now, and I go ahead and just delete all the other columns, then in theory it should return the end progress bar, but I can see that the value is missing. Let's look at the formula to see what's going on. Okay, so you can see that that last value is still referring to that percentage complete column that we just deleted. So what we can do instead is we can simply delete that bit. We can create the divider within the formula. So we can do the completed divided by the goal, and that should give us the same answer. As you can see, we need to times the value by 100. So that looks much better. So now, using simply the completed and the goal columns, we can create an entire progress bar. Obviously, the formula looks quite complex in this fashion. So what I would recommend is that if you were creating this formula for the first time, you would actually use a staged formula approach that we've used. And then once you've got comfortable with that, then you can simplify the formula into a single field so that you don't have to worry about hiding columns or accidentally deleting one of the columns where the formula was being referenced. So let me create another code block and just paste the final result. I'll just break it down now. So we've got the format element, then we've got the if formula. So part one of the overall formula is the format with the if formula. The second part is going to be where we add the space. And the third part is where we create our progress bar value. And again, remember, we have to add the format at the start because it becomes a string and it's a text. So we can only add text together when we're using this AND function. And then the final part of the equation is the percentage sign at the end. So that's how you can create this formula for the progress bar. So let's say you wanted to have the progress bar but only show the filled or the completed element and not show the bits that are blank. So that's very easy to do. In terms of the formula itself, all you need to do is simply go into the formula and remove all of the bits that are the blank spaces. I'm going to duplicate this formula so we have a copy of it. I'm going to put it right next to our existing formula. Then I'm going to simply remove all the blank spaces, and then let's create another column at the top so we can see this formula in action. Now, just like before, what we'll do is we'll copy this, we'll paste it into a browser bar, and then we'll copy, and then we'll paste it back into our formula field, and then we'll press done. So there you go, you can see that it's created only the filled element of the progress bar, and it's removed the bit that was the blank element. So this depends on your personal preference, whether you want to see a progress bar like this or you want to just be able to see the bits that you've completed. So in this formula, as you can see, because I've only pasted in the part one of the formula and not the space with the value and the percentage, that's why this formula is returning only the filled element of the progress bar. So in order to add the value value and the percentage at the end of this progress bar, what we can do is we can come back down to our formula and we can simply copy and paste part 2, 3 and 4 and just move it above. So now all of this has become part of the single formula. So we'll copy this, we'll take it into our progress bar, we'll paste it in there, then we'll copy all of it, come back into Notion, we'll open up the formula field, delete the existing formula and then paste the new formula and we'll press done. So as you can see, that looks exactly how we wanted it to look. It's got the progress bit filled in with the value and the percentage at the end of it. So as you can see, once you've broken down the formula, you're able to manipulate it and change it how you want. Another thing we can do is, instead of the value next to the progress bar displaying as an 89 or a 23, you could round this number to a 90 or round this number down to a 20%. Again, this is down to personal preference in terms of what you want to be able to see, but I'll show you how to do that anyway, and then you can decide which option is best suited for your particular needs. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to duplicate the formula that we just created. I'll put it next to it. We can see what's happening. So in order to be able to do that, we need to focus on our part 3 of the formula. So we want to be able to add in a rounding function, and then the value that we come up with, we want to be able to times that by 10 and then close the bracket, and then whatever answer we get off the back of this equation, we want to times that answer by 10. So let's go ahead and paste this into our overall formula and then copy the whole formula, paste it into our web browser, copy it again and paste it back into our Notion. And we press done. So as you can see, this is another way of displaying your progress bar. So in this case, instead of showing the 89, it's rounded it to the nearest 10, which in this case was 90%. And the 23, it's rounded it down to the nearest 10, which is the 20%. Again, like I said, this is down to your personal preference in terms of how you want to be able to see the progress bar. Personally, I think I'd like to see a more exact value. So I'd like to see whether it's 89% as opposed to it being rounded up to 90%. If you do 84%, it rounds the value down to 80%. But if I just do 85%, it will round it up to 90%. So that formula is doing exactly what we'd expect it to do. There's just one more thing that I want to highlight. So hopefully by now you're quite comfortable with the fact that you can use the if formula to be able to recreate these progress bars, and you can change the display of the progress bar just by simply changing what's within these brackets. You can also change the range of the if formula. So in this case, I've been using the equal to, greater than, and then going up in increments of 10, whereas you can simply change the range like I've done over here, where you can go down or up in increments of 5, and you can also change the equal to greater sign to just simply be equal to. So the if formula allows you to be very specific in how you want your progress bar to be displayed and gives you a great amount of flexibility. So please do play around with that depending on your needs, and hopefully you're able to create a progress bar exactly how you want one. Now comes the fun part where you actually choose what type of emoji you want to be able to show as part of your progress bar. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to duplicate this particular table just so that you can see that we can continue to use the same formula and just simply change the value. And I'm also going to copy the code block that we used to be able to come up with our full progress bar, which is this one here. So let's duplicate that and let's drag it down underneath the table. So let's go ahead and create another column. So the only thing we need to change in this formula is these elements. Everything else within the formula should remain the same. So let me create another copy of this and I can put it next to it so you can see exactly what we need to do and how the formula changes. So let's go ahead and select the type of visual display we want. So what we'll do is we'll click the start button and the semicolon. If you don't know how to do that, or it might be different on Apple users, what you do is you click on this question mark and then you click on keyboard shortcuts. Then Notion opens up a list of keyboard shortcuts, and if you scroll down you'll see exactly what keyboard shortcut you need to be able to create the emoji. So I'm using a Windows laptop, therefore what I need to do is press the Windows key plus period or the Windows key and the semicolon. So let's go ahead and do that. Opens up our window. Now in this example I want to be able to have a progress bar that has a single color being filled all across. So instead of the multicolored visual display that we've got at the moment, I want to be able to just select a single color. So let's scroll down, see if we can find a good one. Right, see if we can choose this one. So that's a green square. So we always want 10 of each. Once I've added the 10, I'll click back into my code block and I'll simply highlight and delete the ones that I don't need. And we just have to repeat this process for each of the ranges that we've got in here. So we'll copy the green blocks, paste it in there. We'll copy 8 blocks this time around and we'll paste it. And we'll carry this process until we've completed our entire process bar. So that's looking good. Now we just need to be able to copy this formula and we'll paste it in the bar. Let's go ahead and do that. So there you go, it's created our visual bar, but instead of it being the multicolored emoji, we've actually selected a single color. So I'll go ahead and add the rest of the formula as part of the same one so we can get the value and the percentage next to our progress bar, so it completes the look. And we'll get rid of the other parts, as we don't need those anymore. So that should be our full formula. As you can see, that was very easy to do. When you have it laid out in this code block, you can easily change the progress bar look depending on how you want it to be, and then you can paste the value back in. So let's go ahead and so I'll just quickly add the rest of the formula in, and then we'll go ahead and choose another emoji. Let's go ahead, so I'll duplicate the column in this case, and then let's just rename this. So I want it to be a display number 3. Let's go ahead and duplicate our code block, put it next to our other one so we can see what we're doing. So in this case, let's go ahead and see which one we want to choose next. I think I quite like this tick. Let me select 10 of these and I'll get rid of the green bits before it. That looks good. Let's go ahead and now change all the other green blocks in the formula. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like in the formula. So as you can see, that's created this really neat blue tick visual display of the progress bar. Now it's looking really good. Now let's go ahead and create one that has some smiley faces in it. Open up the emoji options. Let's go ahead and choose these ones. So I'll use 10 of these. Full moon face. So there's a two-step change we need to do now. One is the filled progress bar needs to show these emojis. So let's just go ahead and replace all the existing ticks with that. And the second thing you want to change is, instead of the empty progress bar showing up as empty blocks, we want that to be sort of a darker shade of the moon smiley face. So let's go ahead and find that. So that's this one here. Let's go ahead and do new moon face. We've selected that. As you can see, that gives us a visual sort of filled versus unfilled or empty progress bar. So let's go ahead and do exactly the same thing. So we'll paste that in there. So any empty block needs to be replaced by our empty emoji face. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and paste that into our browser, and then copy and paste that into our Notion formula field. And press done. We've got a nice emoji smiley face display bar, and we can sort of play around with these emojis. And it's totally down to you in terms of how you want to be able to display your progress bar. So we'll do a couple more in terms of the colored emojis, and then we'll jump on to the black and white classic. In this case, we'll go with the tick and cross emoji. And then let's replace the empty smiley face with a cross. Let's go ahead and paste that into the formula bar and see what happens. There you go. All the bits that we've done, it returns a tick, and then the bits that's still to be done returns a cross. Let's do one more example. That's some flex biceps, and then one that's unfilled. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's paste this into the formula field and see what the end result looks like. So I think the thing that you need to be mindful of when you're creating these colored emoji type progress bars is, for every positive or filled progress bar emoji you want to use, there is a relevant empty or negative progress bar emoji paired up with. Obviously there's no right or wrong rules, right? So you could have any emoji combination that you feel that you want as part of your Notion setup. So that concludes the examples I was going to run through in terms of the colored emojis. What I want to now cover off is sort of the traditional black and white progress bars and how to actually create them and where to find those symbols from. So let's go ahead and do that now. We can use the same formula effectively. So in this case, rather than using the emoji section, we're actually going to use HTML symbols, and I'll put a link to to the website in the description below. But it's effectively this website. It's basically this link. So let's go ahead and click this and I'll show you what I mean by HTML symbol. So there's this free resource which is w3schools.com, and in here under the references they basically provide you with all the symbols that you need, and we'll go ahead and click on HTML symbol. So if we click on that section and we start scrolling down, you'll see that they have a reference to pretty much every single symbol that you would potentially need to be able to create progress bar. So we're going to go ahead into this HTML symbols section. This is the main section that you want to be able to. So if we go back to our Notion and have a look at the type that we're trying to build. So we want to create some sort of a box look, right? So let's go ahead and see if we can find one in the box drawings. Scroll down, you see all the various symbols that you can access. Doesn't look like we found one there. Let's see if we can find one in the block elements. Let's scroll down. So that looks good. So these are exactly the symbols that you need to be able to create those symbols. Now you can see here that there's 3 shades. There's a light shade, medium shade, and dark shade. So depending on your preference, you can select whichever combination you want. Let's have a look at our first example. So we've got our formula here. Let's go ahead and start replacing the emojis with one of these symbols. So we'll start off with the darker shade because that's going to represent the filled section of our progress bar. So that's 10 there. And let's just go ahead and replace all the smiley faces with one of these. So we'll need 9 in this section, 8 in this section, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. The next thing you want to do is choose the symbol we need to represent the empty progress bar. So let's go back to the website. So there's a choice of 2 shades there. You can either choose the medium shade or the light shade. I think to give it more of a contrast, I think we'll probably go ahead and select the lighter shade in this case. So let's go ahead and copy that and simply come back into our formula and start replacing the smiley emojis. So that's 1 shade there. We need 2 in this one. Okay, so now that we've replaced all of the emojis with the symbols that we need to be able to recreate the formula, let's go ahead and simply copy the entire formula. Let's go ahead and paste it into our web browser bar and then copy it again and then paste it into our formula and press done. So as you can see, we've managed to create that visual display that we were after using the emojis, using the HTML symbols from the website. So it's as simple as that, and really it's up to you with which particular display you want to go with and the one that suits your personal needs really. But let's carry on and show you how to create all these other views as well so that you can decide which one is best suited for you. So this time we want to go for this darker block. So let's go back to our website. So let's go ahead and choose this left 3/4 block. So simply copy that and start putting it into the formula. So again, remember, start off with a 10 and then you work your way down. So that looks good. Let's paste that into the formula now. So you can see in this case, the empty bar is a little bit higher than the filled bar, so we could have actually chosen a different block that was slightly taller. So for instance, we could have chosen this full block, which would have given us a much better visual view, but you can go ahead and do that. So we're going to carry on and produce these triangle views now. So let's go ahead and find those in the website. So there's none in this section, so let's carry on moving into the next section. Let's see if we can find one there. This is the black square and the white square. So if you wanted to recreate this view, which was the first view, you would use the black square as part of your completed progress bar and then the white square as part of your empty progress bar. Let's scroll down, let's see, yep, there we go. So we'll be using these 2 triangles here. So they're called the black up pointing triangle and then the white up pointing triangle. So let's go ahead and copy this and paste this into our formula. Now let's go ahead and populate our empty progress bar. Let's paste this into the formula bar and see what the result looks like. That looks really good. So as you can see, it's given us that triangular progress bar view. Now let's create this radio button view. So the ones we're going to use for that look is the fisheye and then the bullseye. So let's go ahead and do that. Now let's paste the formula into the formula bar and let's see what it looks like. That looks really good. It's exactly what we were going for. Really nice look. Let's now recreate this star view. See if we can find some stars in here. There we go. So we found a black star and a white star. So let's go ahead and use these to be able to create our progress bar. There we go, that looks exactly what we want it to look like. Let's create this circular view now. So we're going to use these two circles here, the medium white circle and the medium black circle. Let's go ahead and put these into the formula. There we go, looks exactly like how we want it to look. So let's go ahead and find this symbol now in the website. There we go, it's this symbol here. So we're going to go ahead and select the white square containing black small square and then choose this one, the white square with the rounded corners. There we go, that looks fantastic. Let's go ahead and create this flag view now. Those are the two flags that we're going to use. So we're going to use the black flag and we're going to use the white flag. Let's go ahead and put that into the formula. There we go, that looks good. So the next display we're going to use is the white sugar piece and the black sugar piece. So let's go ahead and add those into the formula. That looks good. Let's go ahead and create this view now. So for this view, we're going to use the gear symbol and we're going to use the white sun with rays. So hopefully that gives you a good flavor of the different types of display bars that you can create. Obviously there's many more different combinations you can create. So I'd encourage you to have a look at this website and go through it and see which one is best suited for you. So even though we're able to create these visually stunning progress bars, if you wanted to be able to have a shaded progress bar where you have a light shade of green, for instance, and it gradually becomes dark green, that's currently not possible because in the emoji set within Notion, as well as the website that we've been using, for any of the symbols, you don't actually have an option where it gives you the same symbol but in different shades. i.e., you won't be able to create one that gives you a gradual increase in color like this from lighter to darker. The closest thing that I can see that we can do do is using this combination, which is going from a red to a blue and then all the shades in between. But if you're really going for a look like this below, then that's currently not possible using this formula or any other formula when you're dealing with progress bars in Notion. Finally, I'd just like to bring your attention to this table. I know it looks a little bit complicated, but the main purpose of this is to demonstrate what the formula will display in terms of a progress bar for each and every single percentile, ranging from 1% all the way down to 100%. And the reason why there's so many different columns in here in terms of the formulas is because, as far as I can see, there are two different main types of formulas you can use to create progress bars. The first 6 columns in here cover different variations of the slice formula. I haven't covered that in this particular video, but if you're interested, I'll put a link above for the video where I cover that in a lot more detail. But personally, I feel that's less accurate and less flexible compared to the if formula. So the last column is the formula that we've been using, and if we just scroll down, you can see where the bar is being populated. So it goes and it increases for each of these percentiles, and it carries on until we reach the 100% mark. What I really wanted to demonstrate was the fact that within the if formula, you can actually manipulate the progress bar exactly how you want it. So this is how we've been using the formula so far, whereas between the percentage of 0 to 4%, there should be no bar shown. And if you look at the slice formulas, there's only one slice formula where it actually produces that first bar, which is the seal plus the floor, and also the seal plus the floor in terms of and you can't change those formulas to be able to give you the result that you want. There's always a nuance in terms of the rounding of the numbers, whereas within the if formula, if you really wanted to, like I've just shown here, you could say that if for the 1 to 4% you want to be able to fill in the first bar, you can simply just click on the formula and just simply change the formula and click done, and it will give you that flexibility. So it really puts you in the driving seat in terms of what you want to be able to see within the progress bar. Therefore, if you would ask me which particular formula I would use, 100% I would say always use the if formula and the method that we've shown within this video, as opposed to the slice function, because that has a few limitations to it and it does rely on rounding decimal places, which can lead to slightly skewed results. Just to cover that off very, very quickly. So if we looked at this 11%, for instance, you can see that using one type of slice formula, only the first bar is populated. Using a slightly different version of the slice formula, there's 2 bars that are populated, and then the third version of the formula, only one is populated. And then when you use a round function, for every percentile that's got the number 5 in it, so 5%, 15%, and so on, the formula attaches an extra empty bar at the end, which doesn't really make it as accurate as possible. Those functions are not really consistent in how they display the progress bar, which I personally think is a big problem. But I'm not going to get into the detail of the slice formula in this particular video, but I just wanted to be able to show you this table just so that you're able to see how it compares to the if formula. So I hope you found that video useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below and I'll reply to you as soon as I can. If you like these type of videos, let me know. If there's any other topics you want me to cover, then put them in the comments below as well. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.